I am so excited to have you here and get to chat with you today. Crystle, I want you to introduce yourself to our audience.
My name is Crystle Castle, and I am the Reiki medicine woman. I'm a healer. I've had a lot of different titles behind my name over the years, and I feel like I've just pulled them back a little bit and just simplified because it's so hard to define when you're in this field and you're dabbling and you're doing all these things. But I'm a space holder. I hold ceremonies, and I've been a licensed massage therapist for 20 years. I have 3 Reiki master certificates.
Wow.
And I've gone to Thailand to train for Thai massage, and I've traveled all over the world to do different medicine, healing training. It's just, I'm a holistic healer. That's the broad version, but my most recent identity has become the Reiki medicine woman.
Okay, so what would you say got you started out on this path? Because it sounds like it's been a journey and a trajectory of learning maybe different modalities and things over the years, because it didn't sound like you stopped at massage therapist.
Yeah, no, that was my springboard. My healing journey really started when I was in a severe car accident at the age of 18.
Oh my gosh.
And I died and came back.
Whoa.
And
you died. So tell me, what does that mean? Did your heart stop?
No. So my neck snapped and I left my body. The
Your
driver
neck snapped and you left your body. Wow,
Yeah.
That sounds so intense.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Oh my gosh.
The driver of the car, it was actually my car. It was a 1976 Volvo. We called her the Volva. And we'd all jumped into this car to go from Boise to California to go visit some friends. And we were 18 and didn't really think about it, didn't plan, just hopped in the car and started driving. And so it was about midnight, and the driver of my car fell asleep at the wheel going 80 miles an hour. And we were in the middle of Nevada. It's near Tonopah, Nevada. So if anybody knows where Tonopah is, it's BFE. Not too far from Burns, Oregon. There's a turn where you can go off to Burns. He had taken a wrong turn and anyhow had ended up in the middle of nowhere and fell asleep at the wheel and rolled off the side of the road. I didn't have my seatbelt on. My boyfriend and I were both laying down across the back seat sleeping. And the last thing I remembered hearing was the driver saying, "I'm tired." And I said, "Do you want to pull over and let me drive?" And he said, "No, it's fine." And the next thing I knew, the car was rolling off the side of the road. I heard, "Oh shit." And then I felt the most intense pain of my life as my neck snapped. And the vertebrae that broke is the C2 vertebrae. So it's the second vertebrae of your cervical spine. And it's the same vertebrae that usually results when it's broken in paralysis from the neck down. And so Christopher Reeves, the famous Superman, had this same
thing
fracture
happened to
of
him.
C2.
Oh,
right.
That is so scary.
Yeah, it's a miracle that I'm not paralyzed. But luckily, it was just the compression fracture, the type it was. It didn't sever any of my spinal nerves or damage anything. But I did have a 6-inch cranial fracture. My jaw was broken in 2 places, and I severed all the tendons of my right arm.
I can see one of your scars.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my face was completely lacerated, just covered in lacerations. I realized that I'm dying because all of a sudden, my awareness is that I'm above the earth, looking down at the earth. And I can see I'm in space, and I see the earth down there. And then I'm like, oh no, I'm up here. I'm supposed to be down there. I must be dying. I must be dead. And then it clicked, and I was like, oh shit, my soul is up here. And prior to that, so rewind a little bit. So I was not raised religious, but I chose to go to church and I chose to be Christian. And so I had a spiritual understanding, but I had turned my back on God. I was like, screw that, screw God. He doesn't love me. It was like this whole, because I'd become dissatisfied and disheartened by traditional religion. And I knew that the God of my understanding did not fit inside of a box of religion. And I saw the hypocrisy, and it just didn't sit right with me. And I was like, that is not what I want. And I was partying and I was smoking and doing drugs and having sex and just whatever. I was living out of my car for a while because I was 18. Yeah, but I also really wasn't on a good path either. I look back and I really feel like this was a course correction. Literally.
Yes.
Literally a course correction. And I'm up there and I'm up in space and I'm looking down and I realize that I have a choice. I have a choice whether or not to come back here. And
That's crazy.
Not my entire life flashed before my eyes, but my most recent life, like memories came back to me. And I remembered my boyfriend, my high school sweetheart, not the guy that I was with,
Okay.
not that guy, but this other guy that I had loved. And he appeared before me and he said, it's not your time to go. And I was like, I do have love to give. You're right. It's not my time. And so I made the decision to come back. And really, it felt like the will to live rose inside of me. And as soon as I was like, I want to live, I snapped back into my body. Oh my gosh. I just came right back. And then I opened my eyes. But I had a severe concussion. I didn't know where we were. It had happened.
How disorienting.
I was like, where are we? What happened? Luckily, the guy who was in the backseat with me was not injured. He'd broken his coccyx. So he was injured, but not severely enough so he could take care of me. And so I told him how to take care of me. I told him to put pressure on my wounds, not to let me bleed out, not to let me fall asleep.
Do you know to say all those things?
I don't know. I literally don't know because I was in such a state of shock that I wasn't in pain. I didn't feel any pain at all. I was actually concerned that my teeth were gone because I couldn't feel my teeth, but it's because my jaw was hanging off my face. And so I was just like,
oh my God. Yeah. Hello. Is it all here?
But
oh gosh.
I really don't know how I knew all of that. I just knew it.
So do you feel almost as if something was channeling through you, some wisdom or some deeper understanding at that moment?
Yeah, maybe. I really don't know. It's hard to say, but I feel like, I think I was more in my spirit and the spirit knows, right?
Exactly.
And so I think I was just, maybe it was just channeling whatever was coming through. And so he stayed with me while the driver of the car, who was not injured, he'd had a seatbelt on. So he survived and completely uninjured. He ran to the nearest town for help. It's called Tonopah, Nevada. And it's midnight, so there's nothing open. It's an old mining town from back in the day. But there is a bar open. So he runs into the bar. Who is sitting at the bar but two volunteer paramedics having a beer? Because they have a volunteer ambulance service there. There's no actual hospital. It's just all volunteer based. So they're sitting at the bar drinking a beer. He runs in and is like, hey, we've had this accident. She's messed up. Come get her. So they hop into their old ambulance. It's like a rinky-dink ambulance. They come out. They use these boards to scoop me up or whatever. By that time, I realized that my neck was broken.
Did you feel terror with that?
Oh, yeah. And especially because the guys that were with me were really scared too. And they were freaking out and crying. And then I was freaking out and crying because I didn't know what was going on. They just told me we were just in a car accident. And I was like, where's my mom? And they're like, she's in Idaho. We're not in Idaho. And I was like, where are we? Why are we here? It didn't register.
Yeah.
And so then I was really starting to freak out because I think I was feeling their fear as well and just not knowing. But I just remember they told my parents later that they had ran out of gas on the way to the hospital. And they literally coasted into the parking lot in neutral.
Oh, there is miracle after miracle. Not you getting in the accident, but the way that you were supported through this process feels as if there was some
I
definite
believe
support.
in angels,
Yes.
earth angels, like people. God sends us angels in the form of people to help us. And so that was really crazy. So they got me to Las Vegas University Hospital where I was in ICU for 2 or 3 weeks and I was in a drug-induced coma. And then they finally they life-flighted me to Boise. And before I woke up in Boise, I remember hearing this sound. It was a beep. And I couldn't open my eyes because my eyes were swollen shut. My whole face was so swollen. My ears were like cauliflower, like boxer's ears. My whole face was like poofed out and swollen. It was lacerated. Looked like Quasimodo. And I heard this beep. And I couldn't open my eyes. And I was like, what is that beeping? And then I heard it beep, beep, and it started to go faster. My stepdad had been in the room. He's a Reiki master. He noticed the beeping. It was my heart rate monitor. He realized that I was aware because I could hear voices in the room and they were like, will she look like that? What's wrong with her? Is she going to get better? And it was like, It sounded like it was like people that I knew. So he comes over and I hear him whisper into my ear and he says, "You can heal yourself. I want you to imagine purple healing light moving through every cell of your body." And I was just like, okay. And so I did that. And I went into this, what I now know to be like a deep alpha brainwave state. And I woke up in Boise.
So that purple light, did you start to embody that or see that and envision it?
I just kept doing it every day, every time I could, like whenever I would think about it. And I woke up in Boise. My jaws were wired shut. They're actually wired shut for 3 months. I was in a neck brace. They had put a tube here so I could breathe. So they'd cut a hole in my throat, had this hole there. Couldn't talk because there was no pressure. So when you don't have pressure over the trach tube, you have no pressure for your vocal cord. So I couldn't speak. So I actually had to learn sign language with this hand because this one was all jacked. And I had to learn how to write. So now I'm ambidextrous, but I had to learn how to write with the left hand on a whiteboard.
It was life altering.
The first time I saw myself in the mirror after I was able to, they told me what happened. That's when I really, really figured out. It really hit me. Wow, you were in a car accident. You almost died. And now you need to learn how to walk again, how to live normally again. It was just crazy. But I remember seeing myself in the mirror, and that's when it finally hit me, and I just started crying because the person that I was looking at was not the same person that I had seen in my mind yesterday.
That must
So
have
like
been really
imagine
hard.
waking up tomorrow and looking completely like Quasimodo.
That would be challenging for anyone. And it's as if you went through a complete identity switch.
Absolutely.
That transformation, although it wasn't one that you signed up for, maybe on a soul level,
Yeah,
it changed even the way you looked on the outside
absolutely.
and how you were going to feel and relate to the world. So how did you start to, in your healing process, because it sounded like it wasn't a quick healing.
The doctor said they'd never seen anyone heal so fast. They were
Wow.
shocked. I was like out of the hospital from Boise within a month. Like
That's
back home.
amazing.
I had care nurses coming to take care of me and stuff, and for the next 3 months. But yeah, they were like, "How did you heal this fast?" And the only thing I could attribute it to, like my dad would wink at me and he's like, "We
Purple
know."
light.
Yeah. And it's Reiki. It's universal life force healing energy. That's what Reiki is.
And for our listeners who've never worked with Reiki light, that purple light, what do you think it was doing? How would you describe? Because I always see light as a frequency, and purple is one of my favorite colors to work with. But for somebody who's, how could light even do anything?
Yeah, we are beings of light.
Yes,
we
for
are.
energy.
We are light,
Yeah.
and so using light makes sense, right? And people are starting to come on board now with like infrared and all these different color therapies.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that purple is the best color. It's just it's a high frequency, and so some people say blue is the highest frequency or indigo, but essentially, yeah, we're beings of light, and it is a frequency. Einstein had something going with his theory of relativity because it's so fast. It's like it can heal so fast because it's instant. It's traveling so fast. And so, yeah,
and
we
even
could go
having
into
the
that.
mindset of this light is going to help me heal is similar to the placebo effect to me. When somebody takes the sugar pill versus the other pill, but their mindset is under the impression, this is the real deal. This is going to help me heal.
Right.
And then they have almost exactly similar results as the people that were taking. I think even Joe Dispenza has in his book about the knee surgery.
Yeah.
They opened it up. They didn't do the knee surgery, but because the person thought that and they were under the impression of it, they created it in
Or
their
our
body.
thoughts. Yeah. It's belief.
Yeah.
And Greg Braden talks about that too, about the beauty of belief and how that's really the underlying basis. But I don't know. You don't even have to believe it though, I don't think. I think if like
That's a
even
good
just
point.
doing it, right? Because your body or your brain doesn't know whether you're doing it or not, or it's like happening in the quantum field. If we think about 0 point energy and everything is everywhere all at once, it kind of gets, I know that's like a little woo, but
No,
like
but
we
it's,
really are. And the foundation of our body is our astral body, like the astral form, the spiritual form. Like that comes first, and then the physical body comes second. It makes sense if you think about it to treat that energy body first
Yes.
as the foundation. But we think of it the opposite way. We're taught this physical
The
body of
matter.
matter is all there is. It's actually no. Matter is just slowed down energy,
Mhm.
right?
It's
And it's actually
densest.
all spirit. That's what it all comes back to. The all is mind.
So you learned very early in your life the power of healing. Yes. Because you were able to turn that around. And how did that event, that series of events, transpire to ignite you into doing massage?
So it took me some time to heal from that. And then I ended up getting with this guy briefly and having two beautiful children, had twins. And I kind of needed that little detour, I think, before I was really ready to commit to my life path. And I never really knew what I wanted to do. Everyone else around me in high school, they ask you all these questions and you figure out where you're going to go for college and what you're going to do for your career in life. And I never knew. I felt so bad about it because I was like, I don't know what I want to do. But it came to me, it was so funny. I was driving down Fairview in Boise and I heard a ad on the radio for massage school.
Oh, wow.
And I'd thought about it a couple times throughout my life about doing massage. And even my grandma had been like, oh, you would be so good at massage. And I just heard the ad on the radio and I happened to be right next to the school. It was Apollo College, used to be before it was Carrington.
Okay.
And I happened to be right there. And it was my guides, I know now, were like, okay, detour, here you go. Like right now, right freaking now. And so I just did it. And I signed up that day just on a whim.
I love synchronicities when you're in the question of your life. If for our listeners, if they're wondering their next step and they're asking, because I always believe it starts with that inquiry and you're just asking the question. I always believe, whether you believe in the universe, divine, God, whatever your belief system is, the answers come. And it could come just straight through that radio ad or a billboard or whatever, but the answers are all around us. I just love that.
Yeah. And I had just left my husband, had quit my job because I was a bill collector.
Okay.
And I was making good money, but it just wasn't fulfilling to me. And so it was like I was in this transitional space where I had been asking, what am I supposed to do next? And then it came. And then when I graduated massage school, afterwards I had to do an internship and I decided to do an internship with this place called Facets of Healing. It just intrigued me. They had Reiki masters there and the two women that were running it were shamans.
Ooh, that
and
makes it
they had a
more
sweat
fun.
lodge in the back and I was fascinated. I was like, what's a sweat lodge? This is cool. And so I just dove in and started working there. And
When you say you interned with these women, so they were kind of teaching you while you were in massage school their way of doing things. Okay.
yeah, and I started joining their women's circles and one of them became my teacher for 15 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a great
Yeah,
relationship.
she had a
to
lot
have.
of wisdom to share, and I'm really grateful for that. Really
Amazing.
kind of set me on my path to where I am now.
So with them being shamans, do you think that influenced your wanting to walk into some of the work that you're doing now? Because I know you're working more in the indigenous. How would you describe that?
Yeah.
You said medicine
am,
woman.
Yeah, I am a medicine woman, and I know that there are people out there who don't like me calling myself that.
Tell me about that.
There's a lot of different ideas about it, and some people feel like it needs to be bestowed upon you from someone else, that it needs to be earned. For me, I really feel like I carry medicine that is meant to be shared with the world. I know that in my soul to be true, and I don't need anyone else to tell me or give me permission.
I love that.
That being said, I also do want to honor indigenous cultures and wisdom and not appropriate it and not say, oh, yeah, this is all mine. And so I want to honor and be respectful of the lineages that I work with and carry, and just respect it and honor it and give them recognition and gratitude.
Yeah.
And I've had various teachers from different cultures throughout my training. And my most recent teacher, Manari, he's the leader of the Sapara Nation of Ecuador. I love what he shared. And his perspective is really that we're all indigenous to this earth.
Oh, yeah.
And they're shouldn't be any competition. We're not fighting against each other. We're all here to share our unique medicine and our unique gifts with the world. And we need to come together and recognize that and support each other in that. And so I am doing my best to do that. And
That's such a deep remembrance, which most people I feel like have a little bit of amnesia around. Because when I think about we are all indigenous to the earth, we are, but we forget. We get disconnected from the very things that nature, if we're in offices or buildings or homes all day, we forget. And so I love that he said that we all can connect to that part of ourselves. But one of the things I hear you saying is you've done a lot of training. You're not just calling yourself a medicine woman and slapping on a title and an Instagram handle because you decided that's who you're going to be. What I hear you saying is, and I know because you've shared with me that you've gone to Ecuador and you've trained, and I think you're going back again, right?
Yeah.
This is not something that you're taking lightly. And I think this is important for our listeners to hear, that there are those healers out there that go to a one-day workshop, maybe a Reiki workshop, and it's nothing against them, but they don't have that training that's more extensive behind them. So I think it is important whenever you're working with someone to ask questions or read their website and see what background and what practices are they getting certified in, or who are they training with, and what is their lived embodied experience. Because when you're telling me about this accident that you went through, not many people have that kind of stuff happen. I'm sure it happens, but you are one of the only friends I have that has had such a big experience like that physically in your body. And so to go from that and take that wisdom and bring it into your massage and all the other things that you're doing, that to me is what really makes you a healer.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like spirit just opens these pathways up for me, and I get to say yes and go for it. And I agree. I think it is about having the embodiment of it. And because, you can take a weekend workshop and we all do have gifts, different gifts that we hold.
Yes.
But it's like, how embodied are you in that? And how are you respecting that? And what are your ethics around that? And that's one of the most important pieces around training. People say training is, it's just a paper on the wall. Yes and no. Yeah, I do know people that, for instance, don't have a college degree or anything, and they're very intelligent, very smart people.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that you have to have that, but I am saying that when you are working with people's energy fields and their bodies and their hearts and their minds and their souls, there is a moral component and an ethical component that needs to be addressed. And I don't think that people inherently just magically know that without getting some form of training, without asking someone who has the wisdom, who has the knowledge, who has that lineage or information. How are you going to know?
It's something that I remember as an intuitive healer years ago, starting off in my practice with that. And I went through a trauma-informed training because I wanted to bring that into my work as a coach years ago. And I remember sitting in that training for over a year and learning so many things that I had no idea about, specifics around space holding and boundaries around start time, stop time, these little things that seemed just not that big of a deal. But in reality, it's what make people feel safe. And so there is something to having structure around how you are holding the energetics and the space for the people that you serve.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So where are you at right now with your training with the indigenous cultures, and how are you bridging that?
So I completed my Spirit of Tobacco mentorship with Manari. That was a 6-month-long program. And then I had him come to Boise. We held a ceremony here. You were there.
I was there. It was amazing.
Beautiful.
It was so cool.
Yeah. And that was really I'd had a graduation ceremony in Ecuador in the Andes, but that was really my graduation ceremony. That was him really passing the torch and being like, okay, I trust you to do this on your own. And I give you my blessing. And so that was so beautiful. And so I've been working with tobacco.
Okay.
And I'm getting ready to, and I've been carrying cacao, hosting cacao ceremonies But I'm getting ready to go back to Ecuador to train, to learn about more cacao, how to hold that respectfully and honor that lineage as well. I'm really excited to get that training. And then basically I'm just loosely or termed. And because really that's what I love to do. I love to hold space for groups, for people to be able to start to experience what non-psychedelic medicine is, and to teach people what it means to have a sacredness in your life, whether it's having your cup of cacao in the morning or saying your morning prayers and doing your journaling. Those things get to be sacred. And I think we've strayed so far from sacredness. And a lot of people may think that it has to do with religion. And so they kind of freak out and they're like, oh, yeah, like that doesn't feel good to me. But everything is sacred and we are sacred, and we get to live our lives in a sacred manner and honor the plants too. And everything has a spirit. The elements, the earth, the water, the fire, the air, the plant nations, the stone nations, they have spirits and they have wisdom to share with us. And our ancestors knew this. Our ancestors
Yes.
lived in harmony with the earth and the elements and the spirits, and they understood this. So it's like we're reclaiming this ancestral wisdom. No matter what heritage you have or culture that you're from, it's ours to remember. It's a remembering, like our part in this big web, this beautiful web of life that is so interconnected. And it's just beautiful.
And how do you think someone can come back to that sacredness in their life? If you were talking to one of your clients or helping your patients, how would you remind them to come back to the sacred so that our listeners can kind of think about something that maybe they can implement or just some ideas?
The first thing that comes to mind is I have them do the earth, sky, heart breath.
Tell me about
And
that.
so it's so simple. It's just 3 pieces: earth, sky, heart. It's our connection to the earth, breathing down into our feet and just connecting to the earth below. Breathing up into our crown, connecting to the sky above, or source, universal life force energy, heaven, whatever you want to call that. And then coming into the heart space, which is the meeting place between heaven and earth. And it's really about, if you think about it in the cross, like in the traditional Christian religion, people think maybe it's about Jesus, but I really believe that it's about that interconnection between form and spirit, and where that heart space is the center, and it's even the center of the medicine wheel too, if you look at it that way. So we have all these cultures know the truth of what is, and it's our opportunity, if we want to remember the truth of who we are. And so when we do the earth, sky, heart breath, and we end in the heart space, the heart is where our remembrance comes from. So I always say, I remember the truth of who I am. I am love, light, peace, joy, and life, the 5 sacred truths. This is the truth of who we are. All else is an illusion. And we get sucked into the Maya and the distraction, and we believe it, right? And even myself knowing this, even I get sucked into it because
We all do.
we move through that veil of forgetfulness when we go into the earthly body. And so why did I have a concussion? I went through the veil of forgetfulness. And we have to, because if we remembered everything we came into this body, then it wouldn't be the experience that we're meant to have.
It'd be a lot. Yeah, because everybody wants to improve their lives. And I think most people find healing when they're stuck, when something in their life isn't working. So we come to this, but I believe that people, they want so much all at once. And I think if you were given everything that is your bounty, let's just say, it could be so overwhelming. It reminds me of the people that win the lottery. They get this huge number, millions and millions of dollars, and they don't know what to do with it. They wind up spending it in a year because who they are isn't a good steward for that money yet. They're not in the right energy for that. And so they squander it to some degree. And I think it's the same with why we go on these healing journeys, because we want to receive more. We want a better life. We want, whether it's our health or our relationships or more money, whatever it is, more joy, more peace. But instead of just thinking something outside of you is going to give you that thing, right? It's going inside and saying, okay, what do I need to shift? What do I need to change in order to have that? I'm curious, when you think about healing and you're working with your clients, because I don't believe anybody's actually broken and needs fixing. How do you see healing when you're working with your clients on the table or in a tobacco ceremony?
I think healing really is coming home to ourselves again and again. And that's why it's this ongoing journey. Because for so many years, I was like, am I healed yet? Am I done?
It's a destination. I'm going to arrive at a certain time and I'm going to be perfect.
Look at all these things I did that I can check off.
Yeah, my life is going to be perfect.
Why am I not perfect yet? But yeah, it is. It's a spiral. It's a coming back to it again and again. We remember and we forget. And I had mentioned this earlier, but I think a really good barometer of healing is changed behavior.
Yes.
Or shifted energy. And so when you're talking about working with a person directly or working with a group directly, I'm sensing the shift in the energy. When I use my Prism Method, I check pulses in the beginning and at the end because I want to see the shift. I want to see if there's a difference in when they came in and versus when they're leaving, or when I'm holding a group space and I'm reading the energy of the room and going around and sensing where is everybody at. If there's been a shift, then I know that something has happened.
Yes.
And whatever that is gets to be what it is. I don't get to call it good or bad, right or wrong. Sometimes people might not feel anything at the time, but then later on they notice. And yeah.
And you were just saying too that healing is this spiral, right? It's not this linear. And it's interesting because the alternative and complementary medicine, I always have such a hard time spitting that one out, I swear to God. But when we think of this kind of field of all these different things that encompass it, everything from massage to chiropractic, acupuncture, sound healing. But when we think about that and the journey that we take, because you were saying, when do I arrive at this destination? And I think that if our listeners can really have permission to see themselves as a work of art, it's not just one and done. I love to look at what life is presenting me in the now moment. So instead of thinking, oh, I have to go back to the past and I have to heal all the childhood wounds, maybe there's a time and place to work on some of those things. But what I really love is looking at what is showing up in the now moment and saying, okay, this is presenting itself to me. This is causing me a lot of tension or friction or frustration, whatever it may be. What do I need to look at and do right now? And then figure out where in my journey I go next, instead of seeing it as this one and done type of mentality.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to actually work with Crystle. I see her almost once a month, right? And it's not a one and done thing for me. It's okay, my energy is tracking better, but then my body gets all tight again because of life or how I'm working out. And so I do think people may get hung up on this fact that it's supposed to be a quick fix. So I'd love your thoughts on that one.
Yeah. It can be. And also it might not be because, like you said, we're a work of art. We're onions, okay? We have many layers. And then we also have life coming at us too. And for me, like I have a team of people that I go to and I go regularly and it's like maintenance. It's just like you take your car in for an oil change.
Yep.
Right? You take it through the car wash, pump up the tires regularly. Like this, it requires maintenance. But yeah, I don't think it's a destination. I do think that we evolve and grow and we can look at how am I handling this situation now versus what I've handled this situation a year ago. And that shows you where you're at and what you need to work on.
And hopefully you've moved an inch or two, or you're seeing life a little bit differently if you're introspective and working on yourself.
Yeah. Or you're like, oh, I'm recognizing this pattern. I noticed that. Okay. Noticing is half the battle.
Oh, yeah.
And so, maybe you'll still choose to do the same thing, but at least you noticed it. At least now you're consciously aware of it. And you're like, all right, now I'm intentionally choosing this versus unconsciously doing it.
I think that's one of the most interesting and frustrating things I've seen in my own practice sometimes is I have people that will come back year after year to get an intuitive healing reading from me. And what's so fascinating is when it's the same thing over and over again, year after year. And I think to myself, wait a second, is it possible that I'm saying the exact same thing, that nothing's actually changed? Because sometimes, even with the information, not everybody wants to shift. But I think it's realizing that the reward is so much greater than the challenge that you're dealing with in the current moment. I think the challenge is the impetus to get us to change. Hopefully it's saying, if it's somebody's health, I'm uncomfortable enough with this health issue that I don't want to deal with it anymore, and there's got to be something better. And so where do you find that people get stuck when it comes to healing?
I think when people get stuck is when they've given up hope, when they just have accepted, like, this is just the way it's going to be. This is the way it is. Nothing's ever going to change. They buy into the illusion of powerlessness.
Yes.
And I have been there myself so many times. I had a back injury. I had an L5-S1 disc herniation a couple years ago. I had to have back surgery, but I was in pain for 6 months. I'd had back pain since the kids were born for 20 years, but it had gotten steadily worse. And then I had that injury. And I was in such chronic pain does something to you that if you've never had it, you don't understand how mentally exhausting it is, how challenging it is every day just to wake up and just get up out of bed. I wanted to die. I didn't want to kill myself. I didn't have suicidal ideations. I didn't want to live anymore.
Oh,
it was just, and I was on all these pills and it was horrible, horrible. I counted one time I was taking like 300 pills in a month.
Wow. Just to get through. That was what was prescribed to you from the doctor. Just
that and Advil, Tylenol. Oh. And I finally was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I stopped taking everything.
Cold turkey?
Yeah. And I started to feel better. I'm not recommending that people do this. I'm just saying.
Disclaimer. Yeah. This is not for everybody. Yeah.
For me, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And so I stopped, and it worked well for me. And then I ended up getting back surgery and I got better. But yeah.
I agree with you about the chronic or the really intense pain that people suffer from. I never understood it.
Yeah.
And then I was blessed with an initiation in 2024 where I got really hurt, and it had to do with my back, and it had to do with, I had like nerve stuff happening in my arm. And it was going on for 2 months, I think, straight pain. I couldn't sleep. And I had those same thoughts. I thought to myself, I'm like, if I have to live with this, I don't know. It was same as you. It wasn't suicidal ideation. It was just this thought of, this is so uncomfortable. I can't feel good. How do I get through this? And I was lucky enough to have a team, kind of how you were saying, of I was working with a doctor, energy work, all these different things that I was doing that supported me in moving through it. But I had so much more empathy for people when they go through those situations.
And it's the hopelessness.
Yes.
That loss of hope that anything can change. And then you're just defeated. And you're just like, the will to live seeps away.
Starts to drain.
And we have to have that. I mentioned the will to live. It's a key to that. You have to have a will to live. And if you don't, you're just drifting around like a fart in the wind. You have no, like, you really aren't. Anything's going to happen to you.
When you had your hopelessness, and if somebody is in that situation or maybe they're in chronic pain, what would you suggest for them to come back to that feeling of, this can change? There's some possibility out there for me.
It's a mental battle. You have to recognize, like, you are on a mental battlefield first and foremost. Yeah, the body is there too, and the soul. And don't forget that. Like, it starts from spirit, right? So it's like you have to go back into your spirit and find out, what is your relationship with your higher power? What is your relationship with your higher self? Do you believe in your spirit and soul? It's there whether you believe it or not, just like there's air. You don't have to believe that there's air here. You are a spiritual being in a physical body. And that was made abundantly clear to me in that car accident, in that near-death experience.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
That was the one key takeaway that I took away from that was, holy shit, I am a spirit inside a body, and I have awareness, and I'm up here, my body is down there. Everything clicked for me in that moment. But we have to go back into our spirit, and even through, and this too with the brainwave states for healing, when you access deep relaxation, that the easiest way to get there is through deep meditation.
Yes.
And healing frequencies and all the things that we do. When you can bypass the mind, it's like I think of it as slipping under the door, as if you were to slip a sheet of paper under the door, right? It's like bypassing the mind. You move away from the thinking mind. You move into the feeling body. And see, people want to get away from the body. And this is where they get hung up because they're like, my body hurts. But it's actually, you have to go through it. You have to go into it to get through it, right?
The portal.
Like, so it's the portal. And so you actually go into the body and you go into the feelings. And then what happens is then when you notice them, then they start to shift and change. And then you move into this deep healing state, that alpha brainwave state where your body starts to go into homeostasis. And that's your body's healing state. We can heal ourselves, and energy goes where attention, or energy flows where attention goes. And so we have to remember that our will comes from our spirit, and then we direct the will with our thoughts. And so when we direct the will with our thoughts and we release those thoughts and allow ourselves to move, this is what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, going into the place of no mind.
Yep.
No mind, no place, no thing, no one, I think he says. You move into this altered state of consciousness, which is similar to what shamans do, right? When we go into this altered state of awareness, that's when we're able to access those healing codes and frequencies and that spiritual healing that can take place. And you don't have to be a shaman. You don't have to be a great meditator. You don't have to be a guru or some spiritual woo-woo person to be able to do this. We all have this ability.
And I'm so glad that you say it like that, because people think that it's reserved for a certain type of people that are willing to sit on their meditation mat for hours and hours. And it's not always like that. There's so many spontaneous remissions. People can change their state. I remember I got so desperate that summer when I was going through that stuff in 2024 that I would spend time in meditation, going into an altered brainwave state. And granted, I have a whole background as a healer for years and years, but I would go into that part of my body and I would start to imagine almost a blank movie screen. And I would ask myself, what do you want to show me? If it was the middle of my back where I was having the pain, what do you want to show me? What is stored there? And people think that is so strange. Why would anything be stored there? The body, the fascia holds memories. It holds the muscles, everything. There's all this emotion that gets trapped in our bodies. So the symptoms of our bodies are so much deeper than just, oh, I have this headache or I have this pull in my back or whatever is happening. It's this deeper invitation to go within and to start to look at it. And so to your point, I remember accessing different memories, clearing things, and trying to work alongside the support I was getting in the real world. And it was incredible how there were things, trapped memories that I didn't even realize that I wouldn't have been able to access if you would have just asked me right now, Del, what's in your back? I'd be like, I have no idea what's in my, what are you talking about? But when I was in that meditative space, when I was accessing in that deep relaxation of theta, all of a sudden just asking that question, and anybody can do that if they're in pain, go to the place, breathe into that space in your body and ask your body, what is here? What do you want to tell me? And imagine you're having a dialogue with your body because it has so much wisdom.
Absolutely. And this is what I do with my clients in the Prism Method.
Tell me. Yeah, tell it.
So like I said, I did massage for 20 years. And then as I was starting to evolve out of it, what I realized that healing, the power of healing touch is so amazing.
Incredible.
We need it. We need to be touched. We need to have that physical safety and reassurance and being held. But what I realized after learning all these different modalities, I was like, why isn't there a modality that has all these things together? So one of the pillars is craniosacral therapy, which is just amazing. It really works with the hub of your body, which is your central nervous system. It's your brain, your spinal cord, your spinal nerves, right? And so this is the hub of our body. So we work with the central nervous system through craniosacral. And then we also pair it with Reiki and then Chinese 5-element theory and Chinese medicine.
Okay.
And so through Touch for Health, which is a modality that's already been created. But I had learned all these different modalities and I'm like, why aren't they all in one? Because I could do in one session. I just started doing it probably about 10 years ago. And I was experimenting and people were liking it and I was seeing results. And then I finally was like, okay. And Spirit told me, like, you need to create this because it heals people exponentially faster than if you were just to go to each one of these people. And it's like, why not do it all in one? And I found profound, amazing results. People were like, wow, what did you just do? That was amazing. I have stories that
Yeah, I was
last
going
for
to say,
days.
do you
but
have somebody in particular that you saw a big transformation with?
I've
I know
seen
you've
so
seen
many.
Yeah.
I've seen so many. But one that comes to mind recently is this lady who she was sexually abused by a family member and as a child. And she developed this inability to not only to touch herself. So when she showers, she has to wear gloves.
Oh.
And she wasn't able to actually shake someone's hand or even hug her son.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so severe touch phobia. And she came to me because her therapist recommended. And she came to me and she's a lovely human being. Absolutely lovely person. And I could barely touch her when we began. She still comes to see me, but initially I told her just come for 4 sessions.
Okay.
By the end of those 4 sessions, I was able to shake her hand.
Without the glove.
Yeah.
Okay.
And her entire demeanor had changed. Like she came in hunched over, sad, like depressed, like very not trusting. She hyperventilating, like she couldn't even get on the table. She was terrified to get on the table. So I had to have her in the chair and just like ground and meditate and breathe with her first. So it took time, right?
Yes.
We didn't just jump in all the
Yes.
way into the deep end.
Right.
It was like baby steps, right?
Yeah.
And now she comes regularly and she's able to give her son hugs now. And
What a
she
gift.
has this confidence and energy about her that is just been incredible to witness.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I think people don't understand how complementary, that's why it's called CAM, complementary and alternative medicine, is to therapy, is to seeing a doctor, a regular Western medicine. Do you see that a lot where your work complements
Absolutely.
these other ways?
And sometimes it even replaces it. And I don't want to say that I can replace it. However, like a lot of people just don't want to talk about it anymore. They've been to talk therapy so many times. And maybe it's helped them or it hasn't, but I can't tell you how many people come to me and they're just like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Do I have to? Can we do something else? Can we do something different? And I'm like, yes, you came to the right place. We don't have to dredge up every single detail of what happened. You don't have to tell me everything that happened. If you want to, great. But if not, just skim through, let me know. And your body will do the rest. The body is infinitely intelligent.
Yes.
It wants to heal. It knows how to heal. It's just a matter of getting ourselves out of the way and getting in a space where we feel held and safe. That's the beauty of doing this somatic body work, energy work all together, is that we finally feel held and safe enough to just drop it and let it go.
And I also have been trained somatically and know the power of the body. And when I've come to you and been to any other massage person in my life, but especially you, being on that table is probably one of the most relaxing, regenerative, restorative 90 minutes of my life. But what I love is that I didn't know that my body so badly needed to be touched and supported. And I'm in a very loving relationship. It's not like I don't get touched. It's just this other way of feeling met. And I think people forget that your body, like we've been saying this whole time, holds all this wisdom, holds memory. And you don't always have to go through the storyline in order to release it. That's
Absolutely.
the beauty of your type of work.
Yeah.
To meet somebody on the table and just be like, hey, let's just be quiet and let's just do this, and creating that safe space. So if somebody is looking to start to heal, where would you tell them to begin? And I know that's a broad question, but if somebody's, Crystal, where do I go from here?
I think it's different for everyone. And I do want to say, I'm not trying to shit talk therapists. There is a place for them.
Yeah, of course.
I've done tons of talk therapy in my life, and a lot of it was helpful. And so I think that's going to be different for everyone. I think really what I would do is I would sit with it inside myself and be like, what do I feel like I need? Do I need to talk about my story? Have I never talked about it before? And I need somebody to listen to my story and validate me. Yes. Okay. Maybe I need to go to see a therapist then.
Yeah.
To help me see what I can't see in my own thinking and overcoming patterns. Or is my body holding a lot? Am I tired? Is my body heavy? Is it hurting? If so, I need to go to a somatic practitioner.
Yes.
There's so many different modalities.
There is.
I don't think there's one that is better than the other. I think it's just a matter of what works for us with our time, our budget, our schedule. And I would just say, be open to something new and maybe even pray about it and ask Spirit to guide you. Okay, what do I need right now? I don't know what I need.
Yes.
Help me. Bring me someone.
Yeah.
Bring me someone. Give me a sign. Like whenever we ask for signs and we ask for, when we get out of our own way and just ask for guidance, it comes, right? We'll meet the right person, like how you and I met.
Yes. Yeah.
Or we'll get a radio ad, or we'll open up our mail and there'll be something there and you're like, huh, that's weird. I don't believe in coincidence.
I feel like we're always supported. We don't always see it, but we're always being supported. We're being guided. We're being led. If we can be open to that.
Yeah.
And to your point, there are different stages in our lives where we're going to have different needs.
Absolutely. Some people are like, okay, I want to go do ayahuasca in the jungle. That's not for everyone.
I want to go for the deep dive. Yeah.
That's not for everyone.
Just blow my third eye open.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's why you hear horror stories and then people get scared and they're like, oh, I never want to do that.
Yeah.
What do you need? And then, and get yourself in a community. You know,
Yes.
that's the next piece of advice I would offer is find other people that are on a similar journey as you. I don't care if it's AA or your church down the road or a spiritual group that you see in the newspaper or on Facebook. Just find your people. Find people that can support you and that can help you along because we don't have to do this alone.
No, we heal in community. And at All Within, we are definitely going to be supporting everybody in finding those modalities and getting educated about what is the best way for them to heal. And Crystal, if somebody wants to locate you, follow you on social media, where would they find you?
I've got 2 pages on Instagram. One is the Reiki Medicine Woman, and the other is more of my formal business page, Prism Bodywork, PRISM Bodywork. And so those are my 2 pages on IG, and I've got Prism Bodywork on Facebook as well. And then I have my website, prismbodywork.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming here today and having this conversation and so much wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.